All right, best and worst learning experiences.
By Team Teutonic.
Team Teutonic.
I think the best learning experience I ever had was summer school. I took a macroeconomics course, and I got a C, and it was the grade I'm the most proud of any grade, was getting that C because I worked at it every day. And in context of what we've been doing, I realized that most of it I did on my own. It wasn't in a classroom, although the instructor was very good. But it was yeah, that was the best.
My best was in my second semester of my freshman year of college. It was, I still believe, the class that has given me one of my more effective tools as a teacher. It was a public speaking class. And of course, being a freshman and everything, it was a freshman class. We all went in there and we were terrified of how it was going to go. But the instructor, his name was John Nash, not the one from Beautiful Mind, but John Nash just the same. And he was just incredible. He worked with like the Toastmasters Club, so he was accustomed to doing formal and informal speeches and things like that. And by the end of maybe the second day, everybody in the room felt so calm and so relaxed and so safe that no one was really overly nervous having to stand up. We had to stand up and give speeches about our lives and things like that. Very personal stuff that we were sharing. And he just created an environment that made everybody feel so protected and so safe in there that it really helped me be able to feel very comfortable speaking publicly, and again, helps me feel like I can communicate with my students with confidence, and also certainly taught me something about trying to create a good, safe environment.
I'd go off what Coach said. Mine was my junior year of high school, and my Spanish teacher was amazing. He would greet us at the door. He had all the characteristics of a really, really good teacher. I almost felt like he had a way of just making sure everyone in the room felt valued. Like just by the way he smiled so big, or the way he greeted people, and every day I would never think like he had a flat tire or anything went wrong in his life just by the way he was just so happy to be there. And every lesson was helpful. We played games in there to enrich like review, so we were never bored. But he was just a really good teacher, so I enjoyed that experience.
My best learning experience was probably like my 5th grade year. I think it was the year like I really knew I wanted to be a teacher. I had this teacher named Mrs. Bowen, and she just made everything so much fun. Like we didn't feel like we were doing work, and we did a lot of things that I feel like we're going to be doing here, collaborating. And I feel like she just built such a great relationship with each one of us individually that I will probably never ever forget her.
Go back around for worst experiences.
Worst experience, worst learning experience. It was actually no learning at all. I went into a German class, and this is the first day. Go in, sit down. The instructor was so welcoming and so helpful that about 30 minutes into the introduction, I stood up and started to walk out. And he says, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I'm going downstairs to turn in the paperwork and drop this class." And I turned around and looked at the rest of the students in there and said, "Y'all are smart. Y'all will go with me." I went downstairs, turned in my change form, and by the time I had turned it in, when I turned around, half of those people that were in that class were there in line too. So, yeah, you can't blow them off so that they forever.
Yeah. My worst learning experience was actually at the same school, the same college where my best learning experience had taken place. It was maybe a semester or maybe 2 semesters later. It was a math class, and it was a pretty brutal math class because I've never been necessarily mathematically inclined. The issue wasn't even that the teacher was like a bad guy or mean or anything like that, but he was so intelligent and understood the material so well, but lacked the interpersonal skills so badly to be able to relate any of it to us. And so we would all be sitting in class with these pie eyes looking around at each other like, is anybody following this, and nobody could, so we would literally had to create almost our own little learning teams and kind of get together after classes to try to help teach each other the material right from the book. And it ended up being so bad, such a bad experience, because it was truly information that we just learned well enough to be able to pass the next test. There was nothing that stayed with any of us for any kind of length of time after that, and it would never reflect so poorly on him, because he's one of those teachers that gets published in journals and things like that. So universities are going to want to hang on to a teacher like that. But it was a pretty terrible learning experience, feeling like you were always being spoken down to, and feeling like we expect the professor or the teacher to be the smartest person in the room, but we don't expect them necessarily to act like it, if that makes sense. So that was a pretty poor experience for me.
I had taken a prerequisite course at a community college and had transferred to East Carolina, and it was in graphic design. And graphic design at East Carolina, when I went to go follow it up, was an entirely different course from my prerequisite. And at my prerequisite, I did great. I was phenomenal. It was a small class. My teacher worked with all of us. I mean, it felt good to go in there. It was at night, and so I was never tired. But in this class, I never felt so helpless in a classroom ever. Everything was pre-assumed that we knew what we were doing, and when I didn't know, she told me just to go get a book, and the book was going to teach me how to do everything. At that point, I was like sink or swim, and I decided to swim, and I just worked, like I said, with some of the other kids in class who were in my same position, who never really used the program we were using, and I really had to work at it after class. It was a 3-hour class, but I still had to come in the afternoons and still work at it. And there was so much I went into graphic design I never knew about, but it got better at the end of the course. And she did give me a pat on the back, but it never really felt that great from her. I just really thanked all the people around me that I was working with and helping me.
My worst learning experience was probably my freshman year geometry class. I had always loved math, and I was always really, really good at it. And then I got to her class, and like you were saying, just kind of put people down when they didn't understand things, like yelled at, like wasn't happy when people were asking questions, because she took it like we weren't paying attention. And I think that was the moment that I realized I wanted to teach math, because I felt like math is not an easy subject for most people to grasp, and I just felt like if you know that already, then you should be trying to really, really help and explain things and not make people feel bad when they don't understand it. So that was probably my worst learning experience.
What do we think we've learned from kind of the bad learning experiences that we've had?
I think you just want to kind of right those wrongs and not have kids in our classes feel the same way that we did with those teachers or those subjects or those topics.
Yeah. I always try to go out of my way to try to let kids know, like, you can ask me anything, and if for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable asking in front of your peers, that's fine. Just come and grab me. I'll take a second. It's not a problem. So I always try to make sure that people know, students know in my classes, that they can come to me with anything, really. I mean, but particularly if they need content help, I'm certainly never going to make them feel silly for that.
Anything to add, team?
That was really good.
I think we're good.